Oh, wow. Okay, so I just got done with a veterans meeting here at my work site. All right, 3 cards. American Legion, some phone numbers, Veterans Connect. Yep, all veterans welcome. Good stuff. So this is going to be a multi-part topic here that I've been thinking about for a very long time, because I believe there's a real need for conversations among men. And going off of one of the previous videos like 3 or 4 months ago, about the one where I talked about how like the issue with the 2 pastors where I ended up leaving Integrity Church, not going there anymore, which was, I'm going here to church for fellowship as a single man because I need to be able to talk to other men. And that is a very real need for every man out there, is talking to other guys. It's not the same when talking to other women for multiple reasons. Also, the whole can men and women be friends pops into the picture here. And for some, it's we can't be friends because sexual attraction and all that. And for others, well, it feels like you're walking on eggshells. There's other reasons, but those are the 2 prominent ones. But yeah, for what I'm seeing here, it's like God comes first, but when it comes down to men, there's a very real circle of how men are very important, and yet there's a lot of undercuts, a lot of toxic masculinity that's also not there. As far as the healthy masculinity, it's not really there, and there's a lot of like a very real need for men to be in the picture, some way, shape, or form. God needs to be in the picture, but God also has enabled there to be free will, so that we have to figure out what that looks like for us, and on an individual level, like we need to figure out where we stand with God and where He's at in our lives. But for men, that is like one of those things that is a constant. For 99% of us, that's a constant. We'll have men around us. We just need to make sure we have the right men around us. And that is what this whole entire series is about. Like the topic around men and God. This is important, and I don't even know how to stress this, with the exception of just doing multiple different parts. Part 1 all the way through part 20. Realistically, it may not go up to it may not go up to 20 different videos, but we'll see. This is something I've spent years thinking about now at this point. Recorded conversations, my own thoughts, different points that specifically tie into this. Now, since this is more or less an introduction, what I'm seeing here, which was kind of fully clicked into place coming from this veterans group here, is this whole idea of support. Men supporting other men, God supporting other men, God enabling us men to fellowship with one another, to build each other up. And the whole Bible verse that talks about, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. This is incredibly true for veterans of all kinds. And sitting down talking with some of these Vietnam veterans is a bit of an eye-opener. Some of the strategies, some of the tactics, some of the issues are actually the same, but they don't talk about it on the media. They don't talk about it on the History Channel. The burn pits over in Vietnam. Hearing that one guy, apologies, I'm blanking on his name. I just couldn't remember his name. He was saying how the burn pits were actually happening over in Vietnam too. They would take some of so it was done differently, and wasn't in big open burn pits like it was in Iraq. I did not directly help out with those, but I did drop some things off a couple of times. So I do remember some of what they look like. But over in Vietnam, mixing some gas or whatever in with the stuff from the litter, the outhouses, some of the shit or whatever, and then throwing in extra stuff that needed to be disposed of, like batteries, which they did mention. I was like, really? And they would pay some of the locals to actually like dispose and deal with the burn pits themselves. So this is actually related to some of the benefits that the VA was putting out, and how the veterans in Vietnam who were still surviving, how there were like the burn pits the funding, the benefits for the burn pits, they were actually excluded. So South Korea, Iraq, Afghanistan, whatever burn pits, like those veterans are covered, but not the Vietnam ones. So wow. How they would still use women and children in Vietnam just like they did in Iraq. It's sad, but some of the stuff is actually the same all around. It's just done slightly differently, different environments. So sitting down with them was just an eye-opener. Like, we may have been in different theaters and different deployments and all that, but some of the problems are actually the same all the way around. They didn't have to deal with women like we did. Probably for better, because sexual assaults have actually been on the rise because of that. You get women in these units, the mission's going to change. Sexual assaults are going to increase. It's bad. Or rather, it can get really bad. It really depends. There's some women who I'm still in contact with who've actually had their own horror stories with sexual assaults and all of that. And it's a shame. It really is. When it comes down to protecting women, having them in the military is just probably not the best idea. And if they are going to be in the military, please be in a support position. Don't be in an open combat unit. It's just bad all around. Men are going to throw the mission aside to go keep the women safe, for one, which is going to ultimately destabilize the military and whatever plans that are put down. Two, the sexual assaults issues makes women not even able to trust the men in their own unit. And then the other issue that was prominent during my time in, from 2005 to 2015, some women would escape deployments by getting pregnant. So you have those who really don't want to go overseas, and they will do what they can to get out of that. And for those women, I don't have any respect for, because what's the point of being in if you're just going to avoid half of what is happening during that particular time period? It's just a mess overall. So yeah, leadership, guidance, mentorship, fellowship. Men are needed on every single level. This has nothing to do with God making Adam first before Eve. This is tied with responsibility and the way men can handle this said responsibility and some of the other struggles that come down with this, including leadership. Leadership itself is a mantle, it's a role, it's something that is tied in with authority, how men can handle this more efficiently, and I'm lacking the finer words here, but men are more efficient with leadership roles than women are. Okay, let me see here. Make sure my phone's not going to overheat. All right. Well, I won't, talk about this for too much longer. This was just the intro. The idea here that I want to leave is how there's multiple different rings where men are more or less at the center of this, interconnected. Kind of think like the chain link armor from the past, from the medieval times. It's very similar to that. And men, women, God, families, organizations, companies, veterans groups, work, like even law enforcement and the military. Like, men are everywhere. This is important. We're all on different levels. And I just happen to fall into a unique spot here where it's, adopted, Christian, family, military, boarding school, going to school in different parts of the, away from where you would normally be at, and a couple of other factors that are just minor. Dealing with troubled younger men is also part of this too, where I am seeing a very real need for healthy masculinity. I'd say a very real need for men to be a part of other people's lives, and especially those who are single. It's a lot easier for us to be a part of other people's lives when we're settled in and all that. There are opportunities there, and in some very real ways, veterans only heal once they get past the coping stage, where we can't do anything except cope until we're able to proceed further and handle our own issues and all of that. So coping, therapy, and then part of that therapy, you can actually find out, oh wow, helping others is actually helping myself. Helping other younger men is one of these things. And some of these guys are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they're realizing this now, where they spent years not able to. I'm not going to put anyone down, because you know what? Some of what they've gone through has been horrific to the point where they've checked out for 20 years. Anyone who's been, okay, grandparents. My grandparents on my father's and my mother's side, they didn't talk about their experiences in World War II, with the exception of one on his deathbed. That's when he actually opened up talk about his experience. And others, the other men there, they confirmed this, saying like their own fathers didn't open up and talk about any of this up until like they're about ready to pass away. And one of the funny stories that was passed on, that this gentleman found out because he talked to his uncle, was, hey, why does my dad always put ketchup on his eggs? Why? Every day he has eggs, he puts ketchup on it. Why is that? Most of us who've been in already know this. The instant egg crap that is put together it looks like puke. It's disgusting. And the eggs were so bad back then that this man's father had to use ketchup to just make it be edible, to actually have the eggs go down. Oh, that is so disgusting. So yeah, wow. Having to have ketchup just to be able to eat your eggs, bad. So yeah, funny. The other story that I remember that comes directly from my mother's father, my grandparent on my mother's side, was, if I remember correctly, he was saying a story about how his socks, it had to do with how his socks were and how they would have to deal with them. Alright, so I am forgetting too much of that story, unfortunately, but it was tied with socks. And it was a comical, funny one, and I'm going to get this wrong. Dang it. So it wasn't the one about shooting, I don't think it had to do with shooting toenails. I would have to ask, because I'm drawing a blank on half of this at least, but the other half had to deal with socks. It was pretty funny. Dang it, I need more stories like this. Alright, well that's it. There's more to this, more to come. This is going to be a multi-part series that I've thought about this for a long time. Of God and men. We need more conversation about this. We need more healthy masculinity. We need men. We need these young men and boys need a lot to get to the next stage, to become healthy, to have that masculinity that some men never had. And for some, it just took years to get any of that. It's just kind of with what life throws at us, and how we don't always work on our lives. We don't always strive to improve ourselves. And sometimes that's just hard, because you're just like, I'm burnt out, I'm tired, I need to check out, I need to rest and recover. Workaholics know this very well, because they run themselves into the ground and they don't know how to rest and relax, and they just fall apart. And that's when they rest and relax, is when they fall apart. As sad as that is, it's the truth. Alright, until next time, alright?